Around the world, protesters have taken to the streets for rallies on this May Day, a holiday celebrating workers. In Turkey, police and demonstrators squared off with tear gas and stone throwing. Istanbul's governor's office said 20 protesters were arrested and at least 2 police officers were injured during the clashes.
Tension rises on the streets of Seattle on Wednesday as a May Day rally turns violent. The demonstration had begun peacefully, but ended with police firing flashbang grenades and pepper spray to disperse crowds.
Just got hit in the leg with a firework. I'm trying to go home. You won't even let me through.
Authorities say 8 police officers were injured in the fighting and 18 protesters were arrested. Seattle's May Day rally was one of several held across the western US, planned by a coalition of labor activists, students and civil rights advocates in support of immigrant rights.
An annual May Day march turns violent in Germany. The clashes happened in a neighborhood in Hamburg that's been a notorious site for May Day confrontations in the past. Far-left protesters threw fireworks, bottles and stones at police officers. Police responded with pepper spray and water cannons. The German news agency DPA reports that at least 10 protesters were taken into custody. Around 6 police officers suffered slight injuries. Several demonstrations also shut down large areas of Berlin. Protests in the capital focused mainly on the German government's austerity measures. For NBCNews.com, I'm Dara Brown.
Pictures have emerged of a powerful tornado which hit the Italian region of Emilia-Romagna on Friday, reportedly injuring 11 people. This amateur video shows scenes from towns and villages close to the regional capital, Bologna. The governor of the region has asked Italy's central government to declare a state of emergency. The neighbouring province of Ferrara was also affected.
This is BBC World News. I'm Peter Dobby. These are the top stories. Syria says Israeli missiles have hit a scientific research centre outside Damascus. The president said that military bases near the capital were also hit. If confirmed, it would be the second Israeli attack on Syria in 3 days.
Now to the situation in Southern California. A very ominous, violent start to wildfire season. There are 3 separate big fires now, driven by the Santa Ana winds that blow east to west. They're now threatening hundreds of homes. Evacuation orders are in place. People are trying to stay out of the way. The winds have been hampering efforts to fight the fires. In most places, only choppers were able to drop water on them for most of the day because fixed-wing tankers, the big planes, were unable to help in these conditions.
Drivers on the 101 freeway could see the flames marching down the hillside, driven over the dry timber by Southern California's infamous Santa Ana winds. An RV storage yard was overrun. A Cal State University campus was evacuated. Shifting 40 and 50-mile wind gusts sent first responders to one fire line after another and to several streets and threatened neighborhoods. The message, get ready to leave or get out right now.
It's gone. No, I can't cry over it. It's replaceable. Lives aren't.
These fires are especially treacherous when the tree cover is extremely dry. Humidity this week has hovered at around 4%. And when the Santa Ana winds pour out of the east at shifting high speeds.
This is a hot, dry Santa Ana wind. Winds that blow offshore, northeast to southwest. They're very dry, very warm, and very strong.
The result? Demonstrated over a furious 2 days in which hundreds of first responders battled for control of 2 wildfires, was an unsettling hint of a fire season that could be as deadly as any in memory.
This is a wake-up call for everybody in California to be prepared. This is a normal weather pattern and fire behavior that we would see late in the fall after a full summer of drying.
West, a few hundred miles to the east. It is record snowfall on this second day of May. Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Seidel's with us from Rochester, Minnesota, where they made history there today. Hey, Mike, good evening.
Hey, Brian, good evening. This kind of snowfall would be impressive in midwinter, but here in May, it's historic. Here in Rochester, 13.5 inches of snow fell. 5 hours this morning, 8 inches piled up. The previous May record was just 2 inches. The weight of this heavy snow is suspected in this partial roof.
An astronomical treat for people in Japan. The cause of the excitement on the country's southern island of Okinawa was a sun halo, which are rare for the area. People stopped in the streets to observe these spectacular sights.
A suicide bomber killed at least 11 people when he rammed his car into a convoy in the centre of Somalia's capital, Mogadishu. A visiting delegation from Qatar was in the vehicles being driven through the city, but all have been declared safe. The Islamist rebel group Al-Shabaab said it was behind the attack and threatened the government with further strikes.
At least 5 climbers have been killed by a volcanic eruption in the Philippines. More than a dozen other people are trapped near the crater of Mount Mayon. Climbers who were on the volcano say that rocks the size of living rooms were thrown into the air by the eruption.
5 hikers are dead after one of the most active volcanoes in the Philippines erupted early Tuesday.
5 people were killed by falling rocks, 4 of them foreigners. The other, their Filipino tour guide. 12 more were hurt.
Authorities say 27 hikers were on the volcano at the time. One said it suddenly started raining rocks like in hell. Although the surrounding area has been covered in ash, there are no plans to evacuate nearby houses.
One of the tour guides told ABS-CBN News the rocks were, quote, as big as a living room. Some of the injured are believed to be in critical condition after being hit by those rocks.
To their nearest beach in Adelaide to cool off after temperatures reached record highs. The mercury reached into the 30s, something not seen in almost a century. Just last week, regional centres in the state's north sweltered with their hottest May Day in history. But while many South Australians have taken advantage of the warmer weather, it hasn't been good news for the state's farmers. The warmer weather is causing major problems as it dries out the soil during sowing season.
Violence in Nigeria, 2 massacres in 2 days. In the northeastern town of Bama, more than 50 people were killed by attacks on Tuesday, which the army suspects were carried out by Islamist militants Boko Haram. Around 200 heavily armed assailants stormed an army barracks, a police station and a jail, freeing more than 100 prisoners. In a separate incident, 46 police officers were killed in an ambush in the central state of Nasarawa.
It's called the Ring of Fire for good reason, and if you were lucky enough to be in the Australian outback last night, just about the time we went on the air, then you saw this, a spectacular eclipse of the sun. Photographers were out in force and captured some truly stunning images.
People as far afield as Cornwall and Lancashire have reported seeing a large meteor flashing across the sky last night.
Witnesses described a blue or green light with a tail behind it. This shot was picked up by a CCTV camera. There it is, look at that, in Cardiff. Experts believe it may have been part of the debris left by Halley's Comet.
This is the Haverlick Ochre Beach. This happened in a matter of 5 minutes. It's starting to either hail or the ice is getting thrown off the lake. Stick of telling this place is done.
River describing that it sounded like a freight train as a wall of ice moved in off of Dauphin Lake last night. It happened in about a matter of 10 minutes, blew in up onto homes and cottages like this one here. The destruction is jaw-dropping. Now this is
A huge wall of ice has crushed homes surrounding Lake Dauphin in Canada. The spring thaw combined with strong winds swept frozen lake water ashore, forcing homeowners in Manitoba to flee.
It's just a big roar, and you can just you could see it coming, and you keep thinking, oh, it's not coming any farther, it's going to stop, but it just kept on coming.
A similar wall of ice encroached on gardens in the US state of Minnesota on Saturday, but there were no reports of any serious damage.
Several explosions, believed to be car bombs, have rocked the Turkish town of Rayanlı in Hatay province near the Syrian border. At least 18 people have been killed by the blasts, according to Turkey's Interior Ministry. The town's mayor said a post office and a municipal building were hit. Local media has reported that Syrian-registered vehicles and refugees in the town were attacked following the blasts.
And now to a neighborhood that is slowly being swallowed by the earth. An entire subdivision where the homes are crumbling. Neighbors being told to pack up and leave. And ABC's Gio Benitez has the story.
I don't know, man, what to think. In March, everything was fine. And everything is gone now.
This morning, residents and officials in one Northern California town are mystified, desperately trying to figure out what's caused 7 homes to be swallowed up by the earth.
It has grown, substantially from the time I saw it earlier this week to the present. So things are still happening.
Just look at this home, the ground giving way, causing the house to drop 10 feet, destroying most of it. The seemingly sudden sinkage is leaving residents feeling like they're losing it all.
The stress level is a little bit high, you might say. You see everything you've worked so hard for just literally crumbled.
What started as small cracks in the ground gradually opened into small canyons.
All the cracks in the roadway seem to have gotten bigger.
Quickly engulfing the Lake County homes and stripping some down to the core. Now the entire community of 29 homes is at risk of collapsing.
It's metastasizing like cancer, and it's spreading out. There's new cracks showing up in areas of the subdivision that weren't affected before.
So why are the homes sinking? Well, water bubbling up to the surface may have something to do with it. Officials fixed broken pipes last week, but nobody knows why there's so much water. Right now, multiple causes are under investigation.
I think you're talking about a lot of broken dreams and uprooted lives at this point.
Uprooted lives indeed. To add to the mystery, there is also a dormant volcano in the area, and at least one public works employee has said he believes many of the problems there are caused by that volcano. And of course, scientists are looking at all of this right now, Dan and Biana.
Caused by a volcano, bizarre. All right, Gio, thank you.
A car bomb has exploded outside a hospital in Libya's eastern city of Benghazi. Reports on the number killed by the blast vary between 3 to 15 people, with up to 30 wounded.
Muddy waters gushed down onto towns and villages in the north and east of Sri Lanka after a deadly cyclone on Wednesday. At least 8 people were killed and over a dozen injured by the cyclone, which brought with it heavy rains and landslides. Government officials said over 11,500 Sri Lankans have been affected.
Mexico's Popocatépetl volcano has erupted, putting the region on yellow alert. Nearby towns in the central state of Puebla were covered in ash as one of the world's most active volcanoes spewed heavy clouds of smoke. 50,000 residents across 24 towns are at risk from volcanic gases and lava.
Residents living near Mexico's erupting volcano Popocatépetl are taking early precautions. Activity at the volcano's crater has increased in recent days, with gas and ash columns reaching 3 kilometers high. Civil protection authorities met with residents to ease fears about lava flow, saying that any lava would cool before it reached.
The 2012 UFO survey done out of Winnipeg, Manitoba has a surprising result. There was more sightings than ever before in the history of the survey.
At least 6 people have died and dozens more have been injured by a tornado in Texas. The storm, which was reportedly over 1.5 kilometres wide, hit Granbury, west of Dallas. It's thought more than 100 homes were destroyed, and the tornado produced hailstones the size of a grapefruit.
So we opened up the curtains and stayed in the middle of the house, and then all of a sudden things just started swirling. And you could see stuff going all through the air. The tin roofs, stuff started hitting the house, and we were lucky. Only one window got broken, but 3 houses up the top of the hill, and everything's gone.
For many people living in this stretch of Texas, tornadoes have been the stuff of nightmares.
I've never been through a tornado before in my life. The scaredest I've ever been. I don't know, I have nightmares about tornadoes every year, and I lived through one tonight.
At least 3 twisters struck northwest Texas on Wednesday night. They uprooted trees and destroyed homes in several towns. Many people lost everything.
They're all leveled. From the destruction from 1 to 10, it's probably about a 10. I mean, there's nothing left over there hardly.
Hampered by darkness, rescuers combed through the debris to search for more than a dozen people who are still missing, while emergency services took panicked residents to safety.
It's rough, very rough. Everything's demolished.
What was it like when it hit?
Hail. It was like hail.
Terrifying footage shows a tornado tearing its way across the town of Obninsk in central Russia on Thursday. Amateur video showed the funnel cloud touching down in residential areas and passing close to the world's first civilian nuclear plant.
Cyclone Mahasen bears down on Bangladesh's low-lying coast on Thursday. Winds of up to 100 kilometers per hour lashed the coast and whipped up waves. Media reports said 5 people were killed, some by falling trees, and thousands of rickety huts were destroyed as the storm brought torrential rains.
A grim sight on the picturesque beaches near Chile's northern city of La Serena. Around 600 dead birds and marine animals, among them some rare species, have been washed up along the coast.
2 earthquakes rocked the Ottawa area and West Quebec this morning just before 10 o'clock.
Natural Resources Canada says the first quake was a 5.2 in magnitude. An aftershock happened about 10 minutes later and registered 4.1.
The epicenter for both quakes was about 21 kilometers northeast of Shawville in the Pontiac region of West Quebec.
For days now, teams of rescuers have been working to save villages swept up in the downpour. It's been heaviest in Guangdong province. Firefighters here managed to pull one woman to safety. But the flooding has triggered devastating landslides throughout the region. Urban centres haven't been spared either. Some 2,500 houses have been destroyed, according to local authorities. Elderly who've had to be rescued. Nearly 900,000 people have been affected in Guangdong alone, the Chinese Civil Affairs Ministry reporting severe storms in 8 other provinces. And further bad weather is forecast, with warnings of heavy wind, rain and hail in coming days.
Unbelievable and only the beginning. Tornadoes twisting across Texas skies, leaving devastating damage. This could be the biggest severe weather outbreak this year. Look at these striking images from northern Alabama today. More than 8 inches of driving rain has fallen so far, leaving crumbled, flooded roads across the state. All of this after a tornado ripped through Limestone County, Alabama. And there was this tornado in Eliasville, Texas. It was one of 10 reported yesterday, only about 90 miles west of that devastation in Granbury from earlier this week, where people are just now returning to what is left of their homes. After that EF4 tornado, winds over 200 miles per hour sliced through their town, killing 6.